Every time I hear the phrase, "she thought he would change," I already know how it ends. And almost always, badly. Have you ever seen violence hiding behind a smile? How pictures of a happy couple get likes, while behind the scenes someone is screaming, crying, begging them to just stop. This is exactly that kind of story. On the surface, beautiful faces, wine nights, trips, laughter. But beneath that veneer, fear, alcohol, control, and a constant whisper in her mind, "You're nothing without me." And when I first read the case files, I caught myself thinking, if somebody had stepped in even just a week earlier, things might have been different. Sativa Transue was born on May 19th, 1995, in Cheney, Washington. This small town, with its quiet streets and its university bringing in energy, is the kind of American place where everybody knows each other, and outsiders stick out. Her mother, Jamie, became a mom at 16. She often said that she and Sativa grew up more like best friends than simply mother and daughter, bound not just by blood, but by complete trust. In the family were also younger siblings, her sister Michaela and brother CJ. Her father, Jason, was part of their lives, but it was the bond between Jamie and Sativa that anchored their home. From early on, Sativa had energy that seemed limitless. Her laugh was infectious. She made friends easily, and she showed deep compassion for homeless animals. Her favorite pets, a dog named Shadow and a cat named Flower, were more than animals to her. They were family. People who knew her described her in the same way: kind, active, generous, always willing to help. She chose her field of study based on her passions. Sativa enrolled at Eastern Washington University, where she majored in exercise science. Her interest in sports, health, and human physiology were part of how she saw life. After earning her degree in 2017, she immediately began working as a massage therapist at a company called Lucid. She threw herself into her work, often picking up extra shifts, determined to build a strong future. Colleagues remembered her as someone who, even after only a few hours of sleep, would show up to work radiating warmth and positivity. But peace never lasts forever. The arrival of Taylor Allen, 4 years older than Sativa, changed everything. He worked in construction and liked to present himself as a real-world guy. Behind his down-to-earth, all-American appearance, though, was a deep weariness and a quiet, simmering rage. His name had already shown up in police records. In 2012, he was arrested for fourth-degree assault. It was a minor charge, but enough to leave a mark. The details of the incident were vague, but the arrest itself was documented. Alcohol was his way of coping with the pressure inside him, and year after year, he drank more. People who knew him noticed a dual nature. Sober, he could be quiet, even polite. But once he started drinking, he'd flip, becoming loud, irritable, and at times aggressive. People like that are hard to love, but even harder to understand why someone would choose to stay. When Sativa and Taylor's paths crossed, it surprised those around them. She was vibrant, warm, outgoing. He was brooding, guarded, quick-tempered. It seemed like they couldn't be more different. But fate had other plans. Maybe she saw someone who needed saving. Maybe he saw someone he could control. What started off as just an unusual relationship slowly turned into something concerning, and eventually, something dangerous. No one realized it yet, but this relationship would become fatal for Sativa. After a few months of dating, Sativa made the decision to move in with Taylor, starting a new chapter of her life in Milton, about a 5-hour drive from her family. For her, it symbolized independence, building a life together, planning for the future. But for Taylor, it meant having full control over the situation. At first, everything seemed okay. He picked her up from work, helped around the house, said he worried when she was late. But gradually, that concern turned into constant questioning. Who was texting her? Who was calling? Why was her phone locked? His jealousy kept escalating, and any conversation Sativa had with coworkers or old friends set him off. Within a few weeks, it got even worse. Taylor secretly installed spyware on her phone, routing all her messages to his laptop. Sativa had no idea. She didn't know that everything she typed, every private conversation, was being watched. To Taylor, this was just another way of showing he cared. The first real red flag appeared over something small. He couldn't put together a new table. It should have been no big deal, but his frustration exploded into rage. He grabbed a sledgehammer and smashed the furniture to pieces. Sativa just stood there, unsure of what to say. That was the first time she saw how fast his calm could snap into violence. Her mom, Jamie, sensed something was off right away. Sativa called less often. She started making excuses for Taylor's behavior. Friends asked if everything was all right, but she always gave the same answers. He's just tired. It's my choice? Her replies grew vague, like she was afraid that any outside interference would only make things worse. From that moment on, watching her became his routine. He checked her phone, her email, knew her work schedule, and who she spent time with. Every step was monitored. On the outside, they looked like any normal couple, but inside, she was completely dependent. Sativa still didn't realize she wasn't living with a partner, but with someone who had long since crossed the line. The home in Milton, the place she moved to for a fresh start, slowly turned into somewhere she no longer felt free. The love she once took pride in became a source of fear. And this was the kind of fear you couldn't just walk away from. August 2021. Michaela decided to visit her sister. Sativa hadn't been home in a while, so Michaela took a few days off and drove to Milton. Her sister greeted her with a smile, said everything was fine, but the house left a strange impression. From the very first moments, it was clear. There was no peace in that environment. Holes in the walls, dents in the doors, broken handles on furniture, corners marked with evidence of impact. Michaela asked what happened. Sativa calmly said, "We just placed the furniture wrong, we'll fix it later." It was like she had those words ready in advance. Taylor, Sativa's husband, was rarely home. He spent most of his time at work or with friends, and when he did come back, he was often in an unstable state. His presence brought tension. He was loud, he drank, he got irritated over nothing, and there was no warmth in his eyes. Michaela noticed how Sativa stiffened at every sound of his footsteps. One evening, the sisters stayed in the kitchen. Sativa tried to joke it off. "When he drinks, I call him the Beast." Michaela realized that behind that phrase wasn't just fear, it was exhaustion, a tired acceptance of the situation. The following days were heavy with silence. In the mornings, Sativa barely spoke. At night, she waited for Taylor to fall asleep. Life in that house revolved entirely around his mood. Michaela saw what was happening, but didn't know how to help. She gently suggested that Sativa come home, even just for a while, but Sativa only said she could handle it, that Taylor was just going through a rough patch. On the day of her departure, Michaela packed in complete silence. Her sister stood at the door saying everything was under control, but her eyes said the opposite. On the drive home, Michaela didn't turn on any music. One thought kept looping in her mind: something is going to go wrong. That feeling would stay with her for a long time. Realizing someone is dangerous can be incredibly difficult. They can seem kind, caring, calm, but behind that facade is a hunger for power and a need to dominate. Psychologists call people like this malignant narcissists. They're not just selfish, they're addicted to controlling others. At first, they win you over with attention and support, creating the illusion of a perfect relationship. But over time, that attention turns into total surveillance, and that support becomes constant pressure. They need to know everything about your life, and any sign of independence feels to them like betrayal. Their greatest weapon is manipulation. Twisting facts, flipping situations, making their partner question their own reality. Nothing is ever their fault. They don't admit to mistakes, never apologize, because in their mind, they're never wrong. Everyone else is. It becomes a cycle, an outburst of anger, a brief moment of regret, a promise to change, and then another round of emotional harm. In between, there's a fragile illusion of peace, but it's only there to keep the other person from walking away. That's how dependency takes root, where fear lives side by side with hope. They don't always hurt with their hands, but their words, they cut deeper. Physical wounds can heal. Words spoken with cold calculation, those leave scars that last a lifetime. Taylor Allen fit that profile to a T. Constant jealousy, controlling behavior, diminishing her, denying fault. Every textbook trait of a narcissist with harmful tendencies was there. He broke her down psychologically, tracking her, blaming her, making her apologize for things she didn't even do. He didn't want a partner. He wanted control. If the dictionary had a picture next to the term malignant narcissist, it could have been his face. By the fall of 2021, Sativa and Taylor's relationship had completely deteriorated. She couldn't keep justifying his temper. She couldn't take the suspicion, the constant surveillance. She packed her bags more than once, but something always made her stop. Still, deep down, she knew it had to end. She had to get out and go home. That's when Taylor made an unexpected move. He suggested they spend Thanksgiving in Cancun. He called it a fresh start, said the vacation would help them get back on track. Sativa hesitated. Thanksgiving had always been about family. Her mom's home in Washington, shared meals, traditions she never missed. Jamie and Michaela told her to stay home. But Taylor pushed, said he was tired of the fighting, that things would be different, that the trip would be a turning point. His words sounded convincing, almost sincere. Sativa didn't believe a word of it, but she agreed. Not because she had hope, but because she had a plan. The trip would be the end. Quiet, final, without confrontation or risk. She told her co-workers she might be moving after the break. She changed the passwords on her phone, left some of her important documents and cash with her sister just in case. To Taylor, it looked like reconciliation. He was excited, making plans, choosing a hotel, Al Ritmo Resort in Cancun. He promised it would be a trip without arguments or alcohol. To Sativa, it was just a pause before she crossed the finish line. Her only goal was to make it through that trip and start a life without him. She bought the tickets. He said, "You'll see, everything's going to be great." She answered, "We'll see." They both knew that something would change after that trip. Neither of them knew just how irreversible that change would be. November 2021. Cancun greeted them with sunshine and heavy, humid heat. The Al Ritmo Resort looked like the perfect vacation spot. Pools, music by the bar, tourists with cocktails in hand. In the photos Sativa posted to her stories, everything looked flawless. Smiles, beaches, palm trees. Followers liked the pictures and commented how jealous they were. No one had any idea that behind the camera, everything was different. In private messages to the people closest to her, the tone was completely opposite. She wrote, "I just want this week to be over." That short sentence said it all. There was no vacation happening. Taylor's promises lasted exactly one day. By the second day, he opened a bottle of tequila to celebrate the trip. After the first shot, his mood shifted. After the third, he started nitpicking over nothing. Sativa tried not to argue. She smiled in public, took pictures, kept the illusion of normalcy. To everyone around them, they were just another couple on vacation. But once the hotel room door closed, the atmosphere changed. Taylor got irritated, raised his voice, demanded attention. Anything could set him off. Someone looking in her direction, her taking too long to reply to a message, not reacting to a joke the way he wanted. In the evening, they went down to the bar. He ordered shots, cocktails, laughed louder than everyone, tried to start conversations with strangers. Sativa sat beside him, trying not to provoke him. She texted her sister multiple times. "He's already had too much. We're arguing over nothing again." By midnight, the arguments turned into shouting. People in nearby rooms heard loud noises through the wall, first fighting, then dull thuds against furniture. The next morning, she posted another smiling photo by the pool, as if nothing had happened. The whole week went on like this. Daytime, vacation on the surface. Nighttime, the same cycle over and over. Taylor got jealous, questioned her, checked her phone, asked the same things again and again. He started drinking earlier each day, losing control faster each time. Hotel staff noticed that she looked exhausted, but there were no open confrontations in public. Sativa didn't share details. She just kept repeating in messages. He hasn't changed." In one text to a friend, she added, "I think this is it. I just want to go home." Those words were the final sign. Her decision to leave was solid. To everyone else, they were just a couple from the US on vacation. To her, it was a week of survival beside someone she had already left emotionally. Cancun, meant to be a chance to fix things, had turned into a trap, one she wouldn't escape. November 26th, 2021. The last night Sativa Transue was alive. The day started peacefully. Breakfast, the beach, sunny photos. In her stories, she smiled. Ocean in the background, a cocktail in hand. That evening, she and Taylor went to the hotel restaurant. Nothing seemed off at first. An order placed, light-colored clothes, a lazy conversation. But during dinner, he started drinking again. Tequila shots one after another, then piña coladas. By the end of the meal, his voice had changed, his face was flushed, his eyes heavy. They moved to the bar. That's when everything completely spiraled out of control. He kept drinking, she tried not to argue. Several times, Sativa stepped outside for air and texted her friend, "He's drinking again. He's getting angry again." 30 minutes later, yelling. Other guests noticed the argument, but assumed it was just a drunk couple. Eventually, security stepped in and escorted both of them back to their room. Then, silence behind a closed door. Later, the truth would come out. A fight broke out in the room. Taylor attacked Sativa, and one of the blows left a deep gash on her chin. Hotel medics treated the wound and stitched it up. When the doctor asked what happened, she said, "I fell," then added, "I'm fine." But witnesses noticed. She looked terrified and barely made eye contact. After the incident, Taylor's behavior became erratic. One moment he was apologizing, the next he was declaring the relationship over and threatening to jump out the window. Staff managed to stop him, but he continued raging, slamming the bathroom door, then begging to start over. Sativa stayed quiet. Neighbors on the floor later recalled that around midnight they heard loud yelling, furniture being knocked over, and heavy thuds. Several people talked about it the next morning, but no one called the front desk or the authorities. No one knocked on the door. To them, it was just another tourist couple arguing. After midnight, everything went quiet. By 9 a.m. the next day, her phone was silent. No messages, no stories, no likes. That immediately worried Michaela. Sativa was always responsive. Her sister texted first, then called, no answer. A few hours later, she posted a worried message on Facebook. "If anyone knows what's going on with Sativa, please let me know." She's not responding. They were arguing last night. At that moment, Michaela didn't know her sister could no longer reply. Around midnight, when the yelling stopped and the hotel returned to its usual hum of air conditioners, inside one of the rooms at Al Ritmo Resort, a 26-year-old woman from Cheney, Washington, took her last breath. The morning of November 27th, when the housekeeper entered the room at Al Ritmo Resort, Sativa was already gone. She was lying face down, a bag across her shoulder as if she had tried to leave, but never made it out. The medical examiner's report left no doubt. The cause of death was strangulation. Her body showed multiple bruises on her face, arms, chest, legs. The marks on her neck were clear and symmetrical. The doctor wrote that the grip was strong, controlled, and held for a long time. This wasn't an accident or a brief moment of rage. It was a deliberate act where violence and control were fused together. Forensic data shows that in mechanical strangulation, a person loses consciousness after about 30 seconds. But it takes 4 to 5 minutes for breathing to fully stop. That means that for those 5 minutes, the attacker kept applying pressure, fully aware of what he was doing. Experts call that window the zone of choice, the moment when someone could let go, call for help, stop. He didn't stop. Psychologists and criminologists emphasize that strangulation is a very specific type of violence. It requires proximity, contact, physical dominance. It's not impulsive, it's a demonstration of power. As British domestic violence expert Jane Monckton-Smith said, "This isn't an act of rage, it's an act of domination. The person is showing they decide whether you live or die." Sativa's death lasted several minutes, 5 long minutes of pain, and the realization that no help was coming. On the other side of the thin wall, tourists were still asleep. The air conditioner hummed, party music faded into silence. No one heard her final heartbeat. When her body was found, Taylor was nearby wearing a hotel robe. During questioning, he claimed he didn't remember anything, that she just fell. But the experts' findings were clear: signs of struggle, gripping marks, no attempts to help her. Murder isn't a split second, it takes time. Not seconds, but minutes. Minutes to recognize that the person in front of you is alive, begging you to stop. Minutes to make a choice. He made his, and he didn't stop. Those 5 minutes in which Sativa Transue's life ended proved not only the crime itself, but that it wasn't a burst of anger. It was a decision. Cold, calculated, deliberate, made against a living human being. On November 29, 2021, Mexican police released an official statement. An American citizen had been arrested in Cancun, suspected of killing his partner. In the photo, Taylor Allen, in a white hotel robe, unshaven, blank stare. It was the first and only confirmation of his arrest. He was accused of possible femicide. Then the case took an unexpected turn. On December 2nd, Taylor was arrested again in the United States, but on unrelated charges not connected to Sativa's death. Mexican authorities continued their investigation while Sativa's body remained in a morgue in Cancun. Her family was forced to navigate a maze of legal procedures, document translations, and the high cost of repatriation, delaying her return home. To raise funds for transportation and the funeral, Sativa's mother and sister launched a GoFundMe campaign, aiming for $50,000. Thanks to the support of friends, neighbors, and strangers, the goal was nearly reached in just 2 weeks. On December 9th, her body was brought back to Washington. 12 days after her death, the family could finally say goodbye. On December 11th, a memorial was held in Spokane, attended by more than 200 people. The room was decorated with purple balloons, her favorite color. People spoke of her as kind, warm, full of light, always helping others. Later, at Wagon Wheel Bar and Grill, a place she once loved to go with friends, they hosted a celebration of her life. Photos on the wall, candles on the tables. No one spoke directly about how she died, but everyone knew. Meanwhile, the investigation in Mexico moved slowly. The Mexican judicial system works differently than in the United States. The first hearing, scheduled for September 8, 2022, was cancelled due to a procedural issue with notifying the defendant. Taylor's lawyers used that as grounds to postpone the case. The following months passed in waiting. In the fall of 2023, Sativa's sister, Michaela, posted an update on the GoFundMe page and in the Justice for Sativa group. Our lawyer told us that Taylor filed an appeal. This delays the process again for several months. He is currently in a Cancun prison. We are waiting for the trial, which they say will happen in 2024. The trial will be open to the public. Each delay was another blow to the family. They understood it was part of the defense strategy, to drag out the case, buy time, and use every technicality possible to postpone the verdict. In Mexico, the death penalty was officially abolished in 2005. The last execution took place back in 1961. But the country still enforces severe penalties for femicide, life imprisonment, or lengthy sentences without the possibility of parole. Unlike the United States, where the term femicide isn't codified in federal criminal law, Mexico legally recognizes it and actively uses it in its legal system. The statistics coming out of Mexico are alarming. In the first 5 months of 2021 alone, the country's Department of Public Safety reported 423 cases of femicide. Meanwhile, The Guardian cited data from the US showing that in 2018, 104 women were killed by a current or former partner. Adjusted for population, that's nearly double the rate seen in France. It's a sobering fact, and in the US affection. That definition for femicide as a distinct crime. But no matter what the legal terminology says, the act remains the same. A woman killed by someone she trusted, someone she once loved. Whether it happens in Mexico, the US, or anywhere else in the world, it's the same devastating truth. Now, Taylor Allen is awaiting trial in a Cancun prison. His name is known, his actions are documented, his behavior is undeniable. But the legal process remains unfinished. He believed he could control Sativa, her words, her movements, her surroundings, even her breath. Now, there's only one thing left he can control: the time between now and the moment he hears his sentence. Why do people stay in dangerous relationships? The reasons are real, and they're painfully understandable. Fear of being alone can outweigh the fear of harm. Emotional and financial dependency can trap someone to the point where independent decision-making feels impossible. There's also the distorted view of love, where control is mistaken for care and jealousy is seen as proof of affection. That illusion is often reinforced by shame, social pressure, and empty promises of change. Together, those forces can become stronger than any physical restraints, holding someone in place long after they've realized the danger. But Michaela isn't just mourning her sister, she's taking action. She runs a page dedicated to sharing updates about the case, speaks at events focused on identifying warning signs of abusive relationships, raises funds for survivors, and has organized a charity run in Sativa's memory. Her mission is clear and unwavering: to fight for justice and help prevent tragedies like this from happening again.